I invite you to consider the increasing integration AI agents in our professional and personal digit environments.
Okay, let's dive right into this explainer, because today we are unpacking a truly monumental shift in how we interact with technology. We're talking about a transition where artificial intelligence moves way, way beyond the simple chat interfaces we've all gotten so used to over the last couple of years. This isn't just about, getting smarter or faster answers to our questions. We are investigating how AI agents might fundamentally change our entire relationship with the software we use every single day. We're basically looking at a completely different way of working, one that completely redraws the boundaries of human-computer interaction.
To really set the stage here, I want you to picture a scenario most of us probably know all too well. It's late at night, an exhausted office worker is just sitting there in front of a glowing monitor, living an absolute copy-paste nightmare. They're frantically switching between spreadsheets, copying customer data, checking a CRM, manually drafting individual emails. Now, imagine that suddenly this worker just vanishes from their chair. Poof, gone. But the computer, it doesn't stop. Instead, a subtle AI interface seamlessly takes over. It moves the cursor across the screen. It clicks the exact right drop-downs, types out perfectly contextual messages, and just continues that exact same tedious work automatically, without missing a single beat. For decades, the entire software industry has basically been built around one foundational assumption, right? Software was built for us to use. It required our hands on the keyboard and our eyes on the screen. But that late-night imagery brings us to a really suspenseful, paradigm-shifting question. What actually happens to our digital world when the human gets out of the driver's seat and an AI agent takes the wheel? When we stop operating the software ourselves and just let an autonomous system do it for us, the very nature of apps, operating systems, and productivity completely transforms.
So, we are witnessing a monumental transition in how we actually interact with machines. The old model, it was highly linear and entirely dependent on you driving the conversation. You asked the chatbot a question, and it spit out a single answer. If the answer wasn't quite right, well, you had to ask again. It was a simple transaction. But this new model completely flips the paradigm. Instead of asking a question, you assign a goal. The AI then independently plans out a multi-step workflow. It acts on that plan, actively verifies if its actions actually worked, and then automatically repeats or adjusts its strategy until that overarching objective is met. It's a persistent loop of action, not just a one-and-done response. To truly grasp this shift, we really need to unpack what makes an AI agent, well, an agent. It's not just some helpful assistant waiting to give you instructions on how to do your work. It's an AI worker. It's a system equipped with advanced reasoning to break down really complex problems. It has memory, meaning it remembers what you asked it yesterday and understands the context of your ongoing projects. But most importantly, it has direct access to tools and applications. It is the combination of all these traits that allows an agent to execute incredibly complex, multi-step plans right in the background, with very, very limited human supervision required.
And this isn't just science fiction, by the way. It is happening right now, and the scale is staggering. We are rapidly transitioning from merely using AI to actively delegating work to AI. Get this. OpenAI reported that by May 2026, more than 70% of their Codex users had delegated a task that was estimated to take a human more than an hour to complete. Think about why that matters. If a developer or a knowledge worker saves an hour on a task multiple times a week, that compounds to hundreds of hours over a year. People aren't just getting quick code snippets anymore. They are confidently handing off long-horizon, heavy-lifting projects.
And the way these systems are executing these tasks is just fascinating. They're evolving to interact with our computers exactly as we do. Take Anthropic's Claude, for example. They've introduced computer use capabilities where the AI literally acts like a ghost in the machine. It doesn't need specialized backdoor code or complex APIs or unique integrations to work. It can literally view the pixels on the screen, move the cursor across the desktop, click into folders, navigate menus, and type on a virtual keyboard just like you would. It operates the exact same software interfaces that were built for humans. Because these systems can now navigate our screens so naturally, we are stepping into what could genuinely be one of the biggest architectural changes in the history of computing. Traditionally, you were the one wrestling with the software to get to your data, right? You learn the menus, you click the buttons, you run the exports. But tomorrow, the AI agent becomes a protective intermediary layer between you and the apps. You just talk to the agent in plain English, and the agent does the wrestling with the software for you. You interface with the AI, and the AI interfaces with everything else.
Let's make this incredibly concrete. Think about the massive, mind-numbing task of processing 500 customer emails.
Today, that is a human pain point involving hours of alt-tabbing between windows, copying data, pasting it into a CRM, checking a spreadsheet, and writing repetitive replies. It's draining. But in an agentic workflow, you simply define the goal. The agent steps in, reads and classifies the inbox, updates the CRM with the customer info, drafts all the personalized responses, and only flags you to step in and handle the truly unusual exceptions. The contrast in efficiency is just unbelievable. The agent connects the entire fragmented workflow.
So this brings us to a pretty radical conclusion about the future of the tools we use. Your favorite spreadsheet, your go-to database, your preferred project management tool, they don't magically disappear. But they stop being a destination you actively visit. We stop thinking about which specific buttons to click, and we start thinking entirely about the end results we want. Software transitions from being this visual user interface that we have to stare at all day into a silent background capability that our AI agents just invoke on our behalf to get the job done.
Now, this invisible shift has sparked a massive, high-stakes architectural war among the major tech giants. Every single one of them is trying to own this new operating layer. Google is aggressively leveraging its massive interconnected ecosystem of Workspace, Android, and Gemini. They're trying to weave agents directly into platforms half the world already uses. OpenAI is pushing hard on its dominant AI-first interface, trying to make ChatGPT the absolute central hub where you go to delegate all your daily work. Meanwhile, Anthropic is taking a slightly different path. They're focusing on building incredibly capable, flexible agents designed to operate smoothly across any existing third-party software you already own.
If agents are the ones actually deciding which tools to use behind the scenes, the entire global software economy could be turned upside down. Think about this massive business implication for a second. For decades, software companies have generated revenue by charging per human seat or per user license. But what happens to their revenue when one single AI agent suddenly replaces the clicking and typing of 10 human workers? In a world where AI does the operating, software pricing will likely have to shift entirely away from human seats, moving toward a model based purely on automated tasks, completed outcomes, and the raw compute consumed by the agent.
But hold on, because this utopian vision of endless, frictionless automation, it hides a massive physical cost. When you ask a simple chatbot a question, it's one quick process. But when you give an autonomous agent an open-ended goal, it triggers extensive planning, multiple model calls, continuous tool uses, verification steps, and potential retries. It turns a single human request into an entire sprawling computational workflow. To support digital agents running continuously in the background like this, we are going to see a dramatic, totally unprecedented spike in global demand for physical resources. We're talking GPUs, sprawling data centers, and massive, massive amounts of raw electricity.
And this builds into a truly fascinating economic paradox. We usually think that as technology gets better, it gets cheaper and less resource-intensive, right? But in the AI space, inference, which is essentially the brainpower the AI uses to think and generate responses, getting cheaper actually drives demand up. As this thinking becomes more affordable, it makes multi-step agent actions highly economically viable for everyday businesses. So these affordable actions justify deploying even more agents, which paradoxically leads to massively surging overall compute demand. Making AI cheaper doesn't mean we use less energy. It means we deploy so many more agents that global demand absolutely skyrockets.
Of course, handing over the digital keys to an autonomous agent introduces entirely new security paradigms. The security perimeter changes from protecting against outside hackers to protecting against our own helpful systems. This is a concept known as intent security. An extremely capable agent might dangerously misunderstand what helpful actually means. For example, if you tell an agent to fix my schedule and clear up some time, and it lacks strong intent security, it might decide the most logical way to do that is to permanently delete all your crucial upcoming meetings and automatically email your boss to say you're taking the week off. No way, right? We have to rigorously teach these systems not just what to do, but what they absolutely must not do.
Naturally, handing over so much autonomy brings us to the inevitable panic about job replacement. Will AI agents take over human jobs? When this anxiety sets in, we really need a massive shift in perspective. Jobs aren't giant, unbreakable monoliths. A job is simply a collection of tasks. When we look at it this way, the question isn't really whether an entire profession evaporates overnight. The real question is which specific repetitive tasks within your daily routine will become agentic, and which deeply human tasks will remain entirely yours.
If an agent eventually takes over, say, 30 to 40% of your repetitive data entry, spreadsheet formatting, and endless scheduling, your job fundamentally transforms. This is a massive psychological shift. You have to step back from being a doer, a software operator who spends all day clicking through menus, and you must become a manager of a digital workforce. Your focus shifts entirely to setting the strategic goals, exercising complex human judgment, driving the creative strategy, and verifying that the outcomes these highly capable agents produce are actually correct and align with reality.
We are essentially looking at a spectrum of adoption that outlines 3 possible futures for our digital workspaces. In Future 1, AI just remains a helpful assistant, automating small, isolated pieces of our day. In Future 2, it graduates to a highly capable delegate, where humans actively supervise substantial chunks of automated work. But the biggest question is whether we'll stop at Future 2 or if we will surrender completely to Future 3. In that final future, AI completely transforms into the dominant operating layer, literally the single primary interface through which we access absolutely all digital services, rendering traditional apps into invisible background infrastructure. And that brings us right back to our core thesis. In the end, the software isn't being destroyed. The apps, the complex databases, the massive spreadsheets, they are absolutely still there, running the global economy. But our human interaction with them, that is what's disappearing. We are truly moving beyond the chatbox, transitioning rapidly away from operating software ourselves toward a future where we simply tell the machine what we want and let the agent do all the clicking.
I want to leave you with a question to ask yourself today. Consider the heavy trade-off between hyper-efficiency and relinquishing control. If it really meant getting your work done 10 times faster and reclaiming hours of your life, would you actually trust an autonomous AI agent to operate your entire digital workspace, your private email, your sensitive documents, your financial spreadsheets? Or is human oversight and making those important, nuanced decisions yourself something you will never, ever completely delegate?